Yeah, like that tax.
Close enough.
846% tax increase on my part.
Farmers got the bucks, what the heck?
Well, they must have made a mistake the year before because it was $26 when it's 46. I asked you, this has to be a mistake.
Yeah.
I'm not going into it.
Good evening, everyone. We'll start the Truth and Taxation meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just announcement before I turn it over to Mary to do her presentation. If you're here for your evaluations, property tax and stuff, Lee, our assessor sitting here, talk to him or sign in on his sheet. Call him, or you want to talk to anybody tonight? Yeah, if you want to go up to your office or whatever, that's fine.
Mr. Chair, could I maybe though ask Lee, I mean, because I've fielded a lot of questions about farmland. Reiterate what happened this year and why the big increase, and maybe come up and use the mic because I know all the people that I've talked to didn't come tonight because I explained how you explained to it, but I'm a farmer also, and my taxes went up on all farmland 48%, and it's very difficult when you see your land going up in that. And they said, well, why isn't it staggered? Why is it? And explain what the state did to us this year, and how this happened.
Okay, so on a yearly basis, we look at sales that happen. For the 24 assessment, we looked at sales from October of 2022 through September of 2023. Those were the sales that we looked at to set the values in 2024. The properties, I'm going to assume, went up at the valuation when the valuation notices went out in the spring, and that's when you want to be very aware of the value of the property and the classification, because in the spring is the only time we can do anything about that. Once County Board of Equalization has been completed, the dollars that we had on the property become certified and we can't change. Now, what happened this year is because we did not raise the values to an appropriate rate, because we're supposed to be between 90 and 105% of the sales. We got a 20% state increase on tillable land and a 10% state increase on rural vacant land, or your non-productive. So if you had any of those lands countywide, they went up.
So
those percentages.
So just to summarize, we evaluated, your office evaluated, and the township assessors, and came in with a value. And the state came in after that, viewed it, reviewed the sales, and said that's not high enough. And the state came in and mandated that the county increase another 20%.
Yes.
Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
And there's no appeal process for that. We cannot, as a county, a board, appeal that. The only thing we can do, and this is what I've told people, we can stress that our local assessors now view the sales now, because there's sales out there that are no sales because the commodity prices are very poor. And the sales for land are following that down very quickly. Now, there will be isolated cases that will sell high, but the value of land is not where I don't believe the value of farmland is where we have it assessed at now. And that's my opinion, just like every farmer I've talked to today in the last couple of weeks. So
right. And we still have now the sales that I'll be looking at for the 2025 assessment were sales that happened from between September of 2023 through October of 2023 through September of 2024. So they could have still been going up with those sales in that time parameter. But that's my parameter that I have to look at. So I'll look at all the sales that come in. And if you have an adequate sampling, in case where if you have an adequate sampling of land that was only tillable and it shows it has to go up, then we have to go up. If it shows we have to go down, we go down also. I've been in both cases over the years, so.
In the past, as a farmer, I've always said land is, it's always went up. Now, there's been some plateaus and drops, but I think this, of course, I've been wrong before. I think this should come down. But if commodity prices all of a sudden spike, then it would change. But I mean, I'm very worried about our commodities prices in the next few years with the uncertainty in our national level, what commodities are going to do with. I think this is very worrisome as a farmer to look at where these assessed values are. And I've said this is a state issue. The state came in and mandated us to increase it even more than what we were going, as your office was going to. So
Yep.
I just wanted the people here to know that we share those concerns. We don't have control over the assessed value. And then another thing I want to point out, and I think Mary and Nicole will point this out in our presentation, is just the assessed value makes no difference to the county as to what monies we are getting. We are taxing approximately 25 million. I don't know the exact fee, but we are taxing that. The assessed value is put out there to say who's paying what share of that dollar amount. It's not, I talked to one person a couple days ago, what are you going to do with that extra money? We don't get any different money where the dollar amounts are assessed. We are assessing, again, approximate 25 million, and the assessed value is just determining what share of that 25 million this parcel is paying, if that explains it somewhat better. But
I've actually talked to people that their property taxes went down significantly this year, and I think it's because they're not farmers, and so their property tax went down because many of the farmers' property value increased, so their share went up.
The second question that I got some of these farmers is some of the housing numbers, their values have went down significantly. I mean, I have a house that my house went down in value, about 3-4%. And I just, was that a trend in the townships or?
Some went up, some went down.
Okay.
I'm looking at them right now for the next assessment. I got some selling for way less than we have on, way less than we have on them. So that therefore the ratio is I'm going to probably have to reduce them. But then I got areas that are still selling for more. So those areas will have to go up because you have an adequate number of sales per the Department of Revenue. So I just have to kind of follow that. And there's townships that will go down and there's townships that are going to go up. I can see that already.
And one more thing, Lee, I just wanted to also point out that, we saw it across the county in tillable and rural vacant land, but there were also other areas that the state mandated increases on.
Yes.
There were certain lake properties.
There were four other townships that got state increases.
Okay.
And that was on the, basically the residential seasonal type property.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I just wanted to, because I know I've been fielding lots of questions and I had a lot of farmers that were going to come in tonight to and express it, and I explained what the meeting was for and what happened this year. So I would encourage anyone to, if you want to see where we're spending our money, that's what the presentation is here tonight. It's not about your assessed values. We don't have that control here tonight, and and with the state coming in, we can't change it. Next year would be the earliest that it will be reviewed. So
for everyone that's here, very important when you get your valuation notice, that's green and it has a value on it and a classification. Take a good look at that. And if you don't agree, that's the time to come and talk to us, because then we still have an opportunity if there was something that was incorrect that we can correct. once the county board is done, so basically July 1st, it's all, I can't change anything. That's what it is. So,
Again, we got any questions? Lee?
I'd like to ask you a general question, John, if I could. You say the state come in and said you had to go another 20%.
Yep.
How much did you raise?
I can't, I'd like to answer that question, but I can't because I wasn't here to set the valuation. But I'm assuming it went up and it didn't go up adequate. That's all I know.
Well, I mean, a lot of the stuff is 45 to 48%.
Mhm.
That would have suggested the state said that you were 20% low, that you went up 28%. That would be the
Yes.
suggestion.
Yes, I would concur with you on that.
Yeah.
But I don't know the exact amounts. I wasn't here at that time,
I'm just
so.
talking about generalities.
Yep.
I mean, isn't 28% enough for the state?
It has nothing, so when it comes to that, we have to, every sale that happens, we try, if it's good sale, because we don't use relative sales, certain things. So we had an estimated market value on the property. We had a sale price on the property. We basically, the estimated market value divided by the sale price gives us a ratio. If that ratio is below 90%, we have to increase. So here's here's a possibility that could happen. I don't know, it didn't happen here, but we raise it and they go through and do the whole study and they say, you missed it. You got 89.8%. With the state, if you're under 90, you get a 5% increase. They do in 5% increments. So no matter what, if that was the case, we would have got a 5%. Here it's saying it must have been at 79% at the most or at the least to get the 20%.
Okay.
And that was my question. How often does the state do those
Every year,
mandates
well,
that were impacted? Because this is the first time that I've seen these two differ by
Yep.
18%.
so throughout the state, I've done this for a number of years. You sometimes get one jurisdiction that something, you missed it, or, it needed a 5% increase. But I've also seen where they've given us 5% decreases.
The answer is not we don't see that very often. Our assessing office hopes never to get those state increases. And
Right.
we've had probably in the last 10 years, maybe 2 years, where a small amount of parcels, this was a massive correction on ag land this year. This was a little unprecedented for us. So that's why I asked for this summary before this meeting. So
Yeah, so our goal is not, my goal from that office is no state increases, be on top of it.
Or decreases.
Or decreases.
We
I
wanna
want to be within that 90 to 105. My preference is about 95.
91
can-
would be perfect.
The problem is if they have a little difference in that 91, and they looked at a little difference and it falls below 90, you get a 5% increase. So that's why I try to err on about the mid,
Yeah.
95. That's just me. So there's sometimes when properties are going up a lot, I will try to get as close as I can to the 90.
I will say too, it's hard to argue some of these increases. As a farmer, I was just approached during deer hunting season if I was interested in selling a piece of my property that was adjoining another property and that owner wanted to buy it, and it was quite a bit more than what my assessed value. So it's hard for me to say these are too high because I was just within a month offered more than what my assessed value is, and I wouldn't accept it. So
Also, the no sale. How do you guys find out if there's a no sale?
What do you mean a no sale?
A piece of land that's for sale and they don't get
the minimum bid.
the minimum that they want.
So if everybody has to fill out an ECRV, electronic CRV. So you have to everyone fills that out. The Department of Revenue gets it, we get it. When we get the sales,
I think the answer to
We-
Steve's question is we don't know and we can't track it.
we call,
Unless it sells, you don't.
Yeah, we don't have records of lands.
Actually sells,
It
you
has-
don't have a clue.
that's correct.
Okay.
So how do you fix that then?
How do
We-
you
we
fix
can't.
something that you, because we only go by properties that sell. So that's all we can do. I don't want to get into the game of trying to guess, well, why didn't that sell if it was for sale? And you're easier if it's an actual sale and you have an actual EMV.
But that's not the true value. If there's land right now being no sale, that means something.
Sure,
It means that the price of land is too high.
And we get that a lot with sales of other properties as home properties. And I mean, we get people asking, well, this is what I paid for it. But the county is a mass appraisal system. And when we always ask for that, we can't chase sales. And this would be the same thing. We can't chase non-sales because, I mean, as a county, we can't. This is a state concern and I don't know how to fix it because if you start going off from an index, like an index related to commodity prices for ag land, I think that holds some merit, but then all of a sudden the commercial properties are saying, what about you're going to hold a merit or a index according to sales on, whatever product they're selling. So I mean, it opens up another can of worms for the state to say, how do we treat all commercial entities the same then? If you're, so I don't have any answers. I just know we have.
A lot of it have to come from the state for a fix.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, property
So
tax,
valuations that are going down, can you give us an example, so to speak?
Okay.
All housing, all single-family houses have gone down, businesses have gone down, lake property, something had to change somewhere
yes.
to
So-
offset this huge amount of money.
So what I'm just looking at now when I'm doing my sales study for the new year, I'm seeing some jurisdictions that the sale price is over 105%. That's meaning it's selling for way less than we have on it. So in that jurisdiction, I'm going to have to reduce the values to get down in that mid-90s. That's my goal. And it just, I can only go by sales and I can only go by arm's length.
You're missing.
I-
Okay.
What types of property, if the farmland values have gone up just about
Yep.
just about 50%, then that's a huge amount of money.
Somewhere there's gotta
Okay.
be something that offsets that.
So-
Where is that?
What types of properties have dropped, is what my question is.
Okay, so in some jurisdictions, the residential properties have dropped. Houses, land and houses. Now, when you're talking about all this going up and they go down, we get a value. Everybody's got a class rate for that. So if you're, let's say residential homestead, it's your value times 1% gives you a tax capacity. The county board, they levy X amount of dollars. I take the values that we put on the property and the class rates, and I get tax capacities of the entire county, and then you just divide. So just because someone's going up doesn't mean that everyone goes up at the same rate or anything like that.
I think Tom's question this year, it's safe to assume that single-family residentials will go down significantly. My example at my house, my value went down about 3-4%, which I don't understand why my value went down, but my taxes went down 16.7%. So I would assume that kind of follows that as countywide, that or certain townships, certain classifications will drop significantly in home ownership. Now, in some areas on lakes, and there's some townships that will not get that because the state came in and said that it's a very volatile market, I think, and it's hard to follow very real accurately, which we haven't done this year, I don't think.
But are you saying that's happening in the next year? I mean, I don't see it reflected on the blue sheets
Okay,
that we got this year.
you won't, because that was, the, those sheets, the green sheets or the blue sheets, whatever color
the-
they are, those were sales that had happened from October of 2022, 3 to September of 2024. We're a year, well, whatever, it's, or 1 year back. We're a year behind everything that happened. From the time we set a
Yeah,
value,
but the taxes on the farmland aren't a year behind, they're happening right freaking now.
Both the valuation of the houses and the taxes on the farmland.
So the other stuff should be dropping right freaking now.
Something isn't
This
jiving.
doesn't make sense.
okay,
Well, you got more questions of Lee, get on his list and talk to him.
yep, I'll talk, I have a list back there. I will talk to everyone. Did I put the, I bet you I didn't put your phone number.
What I would, maybe Lee, what you could bring for the board at our next meeting is show what classifications went down through the county. We obviously know farmland went up and there was some lake, give us the big movers, the ones that went down and went up. So,
Be pretty easy.
yes, I think what their concern is,
Some big numbers.
there's properties have dropped significantly in the county because we have a huge increase in revenues on the ag part of it. So someone's getting a big cost savings in the residential or some.
So the way
Because-
property tax is, if you're gonna raise, let's just say you're raising $1 million, whatever it is, and you got all these different types of property, if one type of property is selling for more where you have to raise the value because of the sales, and the others don't sell, they pick up a higher percentage of the total bill. But the bill is, the
I think
county
we
board sets
understand that. I
Yep.
think we understand that. We want to know who's getting the cost benefit from the higher ag taxation.
Somewhere there's gotta be,
And I see it on my,
a lot of mine it was 45 to 50% higher. There's gotta be somewhere where there's 40 to 50% lower.
well, I wouldn't say 40 or 50%, but there,
Pretty much, that's
that-
gotta be, it's gotta be.
no, what will happen is if we have a lot more value in residential than we do in ag property. If so, like in my house, I'm saving $500 on my residence. I'm paying 10 times that more overall because of farmland, but I'm saving 500 on my residence. So if every person saved, now again, there's townships and jurisdictions that did not see a savings, but that's what I'm asking Lee to show us at our board meeting. Just show where the decreases were in this,
In property tax
property tax.
payments.
Property tax payments.
because there are big increases in ag, so there has to be at least level or decreases in a lot of areas. And this is mine, on this one, 16.7% decrease in taxes from year to year with no changes. So that's, pardon me?
That's a farmland?
No, this is my house. My house so that's what you're asking, where, if that's across the board, are all houses 16% less? But,
They're not.
well, that's what I'm asking you to show. Where did the savings go then? Because in what townships and in what areas? Because the shift on taxes this year shifted to ag land significantly. And I think that's the question that they're asking. If it shifted, if you have a higher percentage of it paying at ag land, where are the savings for the other people? Now, maybe that dollar amount's higher than what, or not as extreme total increase. Maybe it's only a 50,000 or not 50, maybe it's $500,000 more there. And I think the question is valid. Where are the savings for the other residents, vacant land? Where are those? Where did the savings, where are the biggest savers in the county on property taxes here? I'm not asking you today, but I would like to get that at maybe a little summary on that at our next board meeting.
What types of property went down? We know what went up, so,
Well,
We're not asking you now.
no.
Go
Okay.
find out the information and bring
I
it to our
would
board
get
meeting.
the information because I don't know that, but I'm assuming when you, just within your statement, that your taxes went down on your residents. So values of them could have went up. I don't know what your value did on.
I said my value went down about 3%.
Oh, okay.
So go get those
I'll-
answers for us and bring them back to us. We have a presentation for explaining where we spend the money. You're welcome to come and go as you want. And then Jim Olson, our engineer, is having discussion about our 5-year plan for highway construction. And we encourage you to stay for that if you're interested in where we're going to be building or improving our roads. Right, Jim?
Sounds good. Thanks, Lee.
Thanks, Lee.
Mary?
Okay,
I'm sorry for
yeah, no, that's okay. It's,
the interruption or the dialogue.
okay, so we have a TNT presentation. Do you have that, Peggy? Okay.
Yeah, what I'm,
We'll start with the budget process. Can you go to the next slide? Okay, county commissioners, committees, and staff have held work sessions. The county commissioners adopted the preliminary budget and tax levy in September. The preliminary information was submitted to the county auditor treasurer to prepare the truth in taxation notices, which were mailed to property owners. The budget process, our goal is to develop a realistic and achievable operating budget. Future funding sources as well as future spending needs are considered. We review our capital plan for highway to consider saving needs for future projects, and the county works to keep a stable tax rate and reduction when possible. The truth in taxation hearing purpose. You go, okay. The main purpose of the hearing is to enhance public participation in the property tax system by allowing a public forum to discuss the budget, to discuss the proposed levy, explain the increases and decreases, and hear public comments and questions on the budget or levy. Property taxation is basically tax capacity is the total valuation of property in the taxing jurisdiction based on market value and statutory class rates. The estimated tax capacity is taken as a percentage of the levy to determine the estimated tax rate. The tax rate is what is applied to an individual property to determine the taxpayer's liability. So on the Becker County tax rate, we have the 2015 to 2025 trends. Our tax rate is down another 1% based on last year's rate. Basically, that means because the values have increased and the levy has not kept in line with that. But so the county tax rate is down by 1%. 10 reasons property taxes vary. The market value of the property may change. The market value of other properties may change, shifting taxes from one property to another. The state general property tax may change. Taxing jurisdictions' levies may change. Special assessments may be added to your property tax bill. Voters may have approved a school referendum. Federal and state mandates may have changed. Aid and revenue from the state and federal governments may have changed. The legislature may have changed the portion of the tax base paid by different types of properties, or other state law change may adjust the tax base. Do you want to go to the next one? Okay, so for our final proposed, oh, this is proposed, 2025 levies. This is the same that we discussed since September. It's a 7.5% increase with our final budget levy recommendation of $28,052,561. If you want to go to the chart. So the breakdown of where these funds are being allocated, 40% public safety, 26% human services, 19% general fund, highway 9%, and debt service of 6%. The historical tax levy trends, just about 7% of the levy is the levy change for this year. And then if you want to go look at the budget. There have been some increases in the general fund, transit, public safety, highway, recreation, resource development, state-funded county program aid is aid that the county receives to offset the expenses That increased about $30,000 since last year. And the 2024 projects that the county has done is we have the new Dunton Lock Shelter, we have a new cell tower going up in Forest Township, we have a zoning comprehensive plan, and we have expanded transit services with the new bus.
The cell tower is not a county project.
Yes, it is. We bought the land.
Is it our tower?
Well, it's going to provide services to people that need it really bad.
But we're not paying
Yeah,
for it.
it's, really don't have any funding in it.
We just own the property.
Right, and we're getting lease payments.
Yes.
Right, yep. Any questions?
Any questions from the board?
We don't own, we own the property that the cell, was tax forfeit property, so we have a property where the tower, I think Verizon put up the tower. We don't have, and they're paying a lease. We're not owning a tower, it's not,
Right,
we're just renting the ground.
yes.
No county money in it, extra cash, so.
No.
There's a cell tower that was gonna go up years ago and never got completed. Now Verizon, I believe, is doing it themselves. So, any other questions from the public on what Mary just presented? None?
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Mary.
Thanks, Mary.
Thanks, Nicole.
Jim, why don't you come up and do your presentation?
For those of you that came in earlier, there are some maps that show our projects and stuff, if you're interested in looking at any of those. Otherwise, you'll see them in the presentation here. Well, each year, we update our 5-year plan. We've been doing this essentially forever. It's kind of, it's not statutorily required, but it's something that we plan for. It's a planning tool and gives an idea on where we're going to spend our money in different parts of the county on road improvements and that. And I'll start with an update of our new 5-year plan, starting from 2025, going through 2029. Next slide. The goals of the 5-year plan, obviously the main importance is preserving the existing system so it doesn't deteriorate beyond repair. And then also looking at addressing safety needs to reduce accidents and such. And then we look at system improvements and enhancements such as widening roads. We've been doing that now for a few years. Typically in the rural areas, we're seeing a lot larger equipment and they need some extra space to go down those roads. Also looking to accommodate pedestrians on some of those roads as well when we look at widening roads and such. Next slide. Our funding sources for building our roads, they come from state aid funds. Typically, we receive approximately $4 million to be used on construction of our roads annually. Federal and state grants, there's opportunities for us to secure funds to help pay for that and lessen our burden on completing those projects. Then we have our SMART funds, which is our local sales transit tax. That is a 0.5% tax which is collected on the sales of retail merchandise and such. It's not included on automobiles or anything like that. It's just what you buy in the store and that. We also have a gravel tax for the gravel that's extracted from our properties in the county. We track that. And then other funds, typically if we do joint projects with other government agencies, then they share in some of those costs. And there could be opportunities once in a while for private monies to come in too. Next slide. This is our map. It's shown in the handouts there. For 2025, we're looking at the projects in red. Most of our projects next year are in the north central or the north half of the county, starting on the west side of the county on County Road 7 and 16, north of Highway 14. We are widening the roadbed up there, essentially widening the shoulders again, like I said, to accommodate the larger farm equipment we see up there. Those are also safety improvements where the slope is flattened and it helps with runoffs and preventing rollovers. Then when you move towards or down to Lake Park, I guess would be the next one east. Within the city there, we're going to be upgrading all the sidewalks on Main Street through town there and also replacing the pavement there.
Are you doing that short loop around in there also?
And there's also a short local, what we call a municipal county road, which goes around, it goes down towards the pool area and then south.
And up by the Legion?
And then out by the Legion there, yes, correct. Then up north central there, all our projects are kind of grouped together, our paving projects. This year we did half of about 4 miles work on 34 where we regraded that road and widened it. We put 1 layer of blacktop on that. We're going to finish that next year and then complete the rest of the paving up to the Strawberry Lake store there, where we'll reclaim that pavement and pave that all as one project there. Then on 26 there, you see a couple segments that we're going to grab with some reclaiming and paving. And then 35, going from Highway 143, kind of up to the Elbow Lake store, up to Highway 113 there. That was, there's portions of it that are paved and other portions, or a main portion of it, that had an autoseal, which is more of a light surfacing to, it's not like true pavement, but that is starting to deteriorate a little bit, and we just felt we're just going to go in there and do an overlay on that and spruce that all up there. That pretty much wraps up, I guess the only other project, yeah, that is pretty much it for next year. And when we look out in the future years, the blue years, we're doing a lot of work over in the southeast portion of the county. I guess one of those areas there we're going to look at, we've been talking about reusing our ash waste from the incinerator plant in Perham there to stabilize the base on a portion of those roads. Those will all be repaved in that area. And then the other big project in 2026 is finishing the last section of Westlake Drive along the beach from Legion up to the Pavilion or South Washington Avenue. We'll finish that reconstruction and construction of the trail all the way up there. So that kind of wraps up 2026. And 27, we see a number of projects there in the South Central of paving and that, and then another bigger project in the city of Frazee down there. We're going to be.
I thought you said we're going to delay that for 3-4 years, the Frazee stuff. We didn't want to. Oh, I see Stephanie back there. I just have to give her a little bit.
No, we're going to look at doing some, refreshing the surface down there, and then the sidewalks need a lot of work. We're going to look at widening those sidewalks down there. That road is awfully wide. We don't need 12-foot parking lanes there, so we're going to give a little bit more room on the sidewalks there for people to move around. And then we're going to be seeking some grants. And then Stephanie has just been contacted by Partnership for Help to help us do a little study on that to identify kind of all the complete street improvements we want to do in town there. So we'll be working with the city of Frazee there to finish that up and make it all the sidewalks ADA compliant and that. In 28, we got work down in the southwest portion down there. We got some on the county line. There's some paving work, and then on 22 and on 15. And then another one we're going to start working on is, I should probably mention this, on 144, we're going to look at change or paving that from bituminous to, or from gravel to bituminous. In 27, we'll do the grading work, and then in 28, then we'll do the paving work on that road. That road is seeing heavy traffic We do a lot of work keeping it in shape with the graders out there, so that I think will be a good improvement.
For those
to
that want to
road.
know the official name of that road, it's the dump road,
The dump road, yeah.
from Audubon to the dump, so.
Yep.
And it's technically,
Traffic a lot of years.
yeah, yeah. We've tried, Jim has tried a couple different things to try to reduce the, or.
Yeah, we
wear on
tried
that.
putting ground shingles on there to try and help, with the washboarding and that, and we've done some dust control on that, but it just gets a lot of traffic now, and it'll be a good improvement.
Jim, are you considering trying to straighten out that difficult crossroads there, that four-way stop, or is that?
That's the plan, to look at that. There's
What
a
options
kind
are
of a skewed intersection there. We're going to look at working with the landowners there so we can kind of go around and, have a more safe intersection, with good sight distances and that on that road. Then finally, in 2029, that's kind of reaching out their ways, but we've identified roads kind of based off their condition and their age for repaving. There's kind of a little bit of scattering here and there of those. You can see those in yellow. If you look way to the east on 135, we're kind of looking at that as a good candidate now from paving that road and changing it from gravel to bituminous. That's another road that sees a lot of traffic. It's got a good base on it. It's nice and wide, so that's will be a fairly easy one to upgrade from bituminous or from gravel to bituminous there.
I see in 29 that you're looking at widening County 12, the gravel road, County 12.
Well, more of working on the sloping of the ditches. We get a lot of drifting on that road. The road out there is pretty wide as it is, but we're just looking at, helping with drainage and drifting out there by grading some of those back slopes and the ditches out there.
And I know that's not probably a high traffic, but I think it's a high truck traffic route. I know I've gotten a request from the past before we did finish 13 off that would be a nice cut across for some traffic. But are we preparing that for possibility in the future to look at paving?
That short section, it is possible, yeah, and then the grading work, would help. I think
Is there any tile or tile put in that road because that's in some wet areas?
It is, yes, yeah. We'd have to look at some of that and do some
That had,
drilling and.
Barry, that had tile put in just about that whole area 12. 2 lines that FEMA paid for
Okay.
through a flood mitigation that I was involved with, so.
So that's kind of our plan in a nutshell. If you go to the next slide, of those projects, like I said, funding comes from several different sources. We have our sales tax that we need to designate those projects. Every year we kind of reaffirm that, but that's part of the law for us to show which projects we're going to be spending our money on. That sales tax, like I said, generates about 3.5 million annually. We've seen it as high as 3.8, I think it was last year. This year, we won't know until after the first of the year. I think we're a little under.
I think I did look at the last report. It looked like there were some months that were dipping a little bit. So I think our economy is kind of flattening out and not continuing. But we are one of the few counties in the state that are growing. I mean, we are increasing in population, and so that will help us maintain that growth.
Yep, correct. Let's see, next slide. Those projects for next year, like when I discussed what we have the grade widening projects. That's an improvement to that road. That's where we like to use our sales tax dollars. Similarly, up there on 34, where we did the grading work this year and then reclaiming the road all the way up to Strawberry Lake Store. In the city of Lake Park, we're using some of that to help with some of the enhancements on the sidewalks and the road there. And then up there in 35 as well, we'll be spending some of our dollars on that road to improve the strength of that road.
Jim, on 7 and 16, there's no paving, is there? It's just widening? Because that pavement isn't that old, correct?
We are not no pavement work, it's just widening the shoulders. So you might think that's unusual, but it actually worked well for us to, get in there and do that. And oftentimes then, we may do it before we repave the road, or sometimes we might do it after we repave the roads, but
I would imagine we're going to widen the driving lanes on those roads once it comes due the next time. I mean, because those are pretty
typically,
heavy.
yeah, we look at paving those shoulders a little wider than what they are, yes.
Like a
correct.
2 foot,
Yep.
2 foot more.
Then final note, if you look down by the city of Frazee, the board has decided that they will use some of their smart tax to help with that Wanigan Park at the trail entrance to the park there. Our money can only be spent on roads, but the plan for Wanigan Park is to enhance the road and the entrance into the park. So we'll be spending approximately $150,000 of our sales tax money to assist with their project down there.
That's going to be a roundabout, correct?
Correct, yep. And then I think this kind of shows candidates that we look at. Some of them are from this year, but when you look out into future years where we want to spend our money, we just developed this list to kind of give an idea where we can spend our money. Like I said, we try to target it for enhancements to our system, and a lot of these are, whether they're widening or gravel to bituminous, and that's kind of where we focus those monies on. And the next page. We've been doing this now for 10 years, and this is all of our projects that we've done. It's a substantial amount of work that we've completed with our sales tax money. We're touching all parts of the county, and we've, most of those funds have gone to our county roads, but we have assisted some townships and areas and some local agencies. So we do take those projects into consideration if they're brought forward to us and they kind of meet our goals and what we feel, and they have a kind of a regional impact for everyone. So
Got a question, I think, back row. Jim, you got a question back.
I do. It's a complete smart project. On 34, you consider that done, the piece of property that you did?
no, that we graded and we only put one layer of blacktop on it this year. So
The reason I ask that is there's huge spots right now, big spots that are all tore up, and they refinished it.
yeah, there were some soft spots out there, and that's typically why we don't put the final layer of blacktop on, so it kind of goes through a winter
There was another coat going on.
and it dries out and,
Yes.
settles down. So next year when we come through there, we'll put another surface on top of that.
Right, that's 34, yeah.
Yep,
It's like completed, that's my question.
yep, that's part of that project. So one more layer of blacktop going
But
in.
Jim, your screen says it's completed, so it's not quite completed yet.
It's not complete.
Oh,
Those grade widening and.
okay, the grade widening is complete.
Yeah.
I guess I see what you're
Yeah,
asking there.
that was
Yep.
the question. He was concerned that you're not
Yep.
going to finish.
No, Jim mentioned that earlier, that
Yeah.
there's another lift
They will
going
put
on
another
there.
layer on.
Jim, I had a request for consideration on the road that goes on by Forest Hills. It's 3 townships, and that road's been getting so much more traffic, the closure of the airport road in the past. So the townships have,
There's 4 townships involved.
Four.
is it 4 townships?
townships.
3 commissioner districts are the border
Yeah.
that road. I see, it's kind of funny, but that is getting a lot of use, and it's very difficult for the townships to maintain that. So I said it certainly can be requested that you get assistance from the county to make that improvement down the road. So put that in the request line anyway, that the 3 townships or 4 townships have requested consideration.
Yep. Yeah, I've talked with Audubon recently on that, and I told them, when the bond funds hopefully get updated and they put some more towards roads, that local road improvement project, that will be a very good candidate to submit. And I also mentioned like our smart tax could assist in some matching and helping and assisting those townships, because that again is a type of road that has some regional significance. It touches 4 townships. It connects a trunk highway to our county road, and it does see a lot of traffic.
And a recent road closure, affected that. I
Yep.
mean,
When the airport road closed, some traffic diverted to that road, so,
And it's so bad, I don't travel, I mean, I don't travel that road because it's always so bad. It's just, it's not one you want to travel.
It was good for part of the year through the rain season, and then it started drying out and got bad. But Ottoman Township is one that's kind of charged with maintaining it, except the last half mile, and that's Eunice and Lakeview that contribute towards that, so. Jim, I think you mentioned on the SMART projects for the last 10 years since we implemented it, spent about 33 million
Yeah.
on road projects.
I have a slide coming up here, but we'll look at the financials for next year. Go to the next slide. Or no, I guess this slide. I think in the handout as well, it's your last sheet for those in the audience. I think we've collected probably about 32 million and we've expended probably close to 25 million or 25 million or so. So it's done a lot of work for us.
I think, Mary, you can probably give the final number, but the first year was 1.3 million, and then the
Yep.
first full year.
Yep.
So you can see how our sales tax revenue is going, because it's still the same half cent. That half cent sales tax has grown in 10 years from 1.3 to 3.8. That just is mind-boggling to me, and it's the same merchandise that's been taxed, not increased. So the last 10 years, we have been tremendous in our growth, and I think that's Walmart and Menards, both those big box stores have come in and changed that dynamic. Because last time I checked, and Mary, you can probably, so Clay County has a half cent sales tax for their law enforcement center. Becker County collects more annually than Clay County does on a half cent sales tax. And that really blew my mind when I first heard that we sell more, have sales tax than Clay County. Now, this excludes vehicles, but
It's all the online sales too,
but it may have changed, but this was a couple years ago that and maybe I'm wrong, so don't quote me on it. I'd have to check again, but
Newspapers on your-
I've not been 100% accurate in my
Well,
life, so.
one thing that contributes a lot to it is the tourist season, because 60 to 70% of the % comes from out of county.
And maybe it was just their projected when they were looking at that law enforcement,
Well,
because it was,
there was something in there when,
Yeah, no, I
That we
think
got
you're correct.
from
We collect more
Extension.
on ours.
Yeah.
Otter Tail enacted it a few years ago also.
So, I don't know if this is one of the final slides, but this is kind of our program for next year. It shows where all our money is coming from. I just kind of go across on the bottom line there. We have about $13 million worth of projects for next year. And of that, it looks like we have about 3.8 that comes from our state aid fund. Like I said, we get about 4 million a year. We have another small account, we're using 900 of municipal state aid. That's what we're going to use in the city of Lake Park on that little loop road. That road is eligible to use that money for $900,000. State grants, we have $500,000 we received to use in the city of Lake Park on the sidewalks there. It's part of the state bonding program, has an active transportation grant, which focuses on pedestrian and improvements to roads and that. So that we were lucky to get that. And then we have sales tax money that we're using. We're going to use almost, 6 million, I think, next year of our funds. Just so you know, we only collect 3.5 million a year, but we haven't spent it all, so we have some banked and stuff on that. And we still will have a balance that will carry over to next year too, even after spending that much. Hoping that we will collect about 3.5 million again next year. But other than that, like I said, comes from other local agencies. At the bottom of the list are highway safety projects. One of the big ones we have is an Edgeline project, which we're leading this year for 11 other counties. That's putting 6-inch edge stripes on the road. We received federal grants to pay for 90% of those costs. So our matching funds will, for our county will be $20,000 on that. And then we have some rumble strips and some intersection lighting where we received funding as well. Our rumble strips had 100% funding, so there'll be no cost to us on that. And then our intersection lighting, again, that's a 90-10 split.
And the intersection lighting is grant money, but I think we discussed our last meeting before, and we're getting some numbers back on how much that's going to cost us. Have you heard for our monthly electric rate to pay you that light bill? And have you talked to electric companies, see if we get a break on that? Because that ended up being about $50 a month per light, was that?
It is. I've talked to our consultant, and he says it's very unlikely. He's never seen it before. It's happening everywhere. That meter fee, they won't waive that meter fee or charge you a flat rate fee. But we'll still check into it, but.
Well, in my opinion, again, and this is probably not when we discuss it, but I think the flashing stoplight is much more economical than the lights. And at some point on the intersections where there's, I just think we are getting to a point where we've got enough lighting at intersections because.
We talked about those flashing stoplights, some of them that come up to 34 too. The intersection.
There's still a few out there that are beneficial to have.
There are certainly some that can be added, but I'm at a point looking at some of the proposed sites, I don't feel it's necessary in some of those, and I think.
Those are the ones that the state identified.
I think Jim identified them.
Well, they're in our plan. They were identified through the plan, and typically those are the ones that you select that are, kind of towards the top of the list. They may fall in, on curves or on areas, that are just, that have higher traffic volume. That's why the ones on like Highway 10 are rated pretty high because, it probably benefits people more that are turning off there that they can see their turn off, in advance of that if there's not adequate lighting. But, we can certainly look at those and eliminate some. We can't move them around or move them to different intersections that we haven't already planned on.
Well, the one is the 5 and 6 by the Green Valley Golf Course. It turns up and it goes into hill and then it's a T. And I just think if you haven't realized, if you don't know where you're at by that time, you're already off the road. And I just wonder about the traffic volume there at night to warrant at that level. I don't think it's. Sure. But I do think the ones on 6 and 15 where it's a T coming straight on. Now there's been numerous straight off drives there. I certainly concur with those.
I did have a conversation with Moore Engineering down in our conference with Dave and
Oh, sure.
And then the engineer that's going to be in charge of this project too. And I said we had a few concerns, so they'll be discussing it. So.
Yep.
Thanks.
I think any question from the public or you
I think
guys,
the public too, if you know of a road that have a concern, Jim's opened it. This is a good time to talk about if you see an improvement needed or on any roads in your area, because it's people that live there that can identify concerns more than us most time. And I know Erica, she did request that her driveway get paved, but I don't think we're going to consider that.
You didn't
Come on
get,
now, don't
you
start
didn't
with
get
yours.
yours paved?
Any questions from the
I
audience?
live on a township road.
Yes.
What do you do about a road that, Bud Typen?
Yeah.
Bud Typen, he grades it all the time, I'm on that road, that we can't do nothing about it because the tribe will not blow the beaver dam where the water comes up halfway up on the road. They can't do nothing about it. You don't have no jurisdiction over the tribe blowing the dam to lower the water to get it off the road.
I think you have to go in there at night.
Jim, I wonder if you could maybe talk to federal officials to see if they could work. I know, but the feds can work maybe with the tribe better than local officials. They have a higher level of.
They threatened us before. We were gonna put a culvert down. They told us to stay the hell off their land. We used to use plastic when we ran out of ditching dynamite. And that's been years ago, and now they're pointing their fingers at us.
Yeah, I can certainly start conversations.
If there's
I can start with their transportation.
The local up there,
It's, why don't, and maybe you can talk to Carrie, and Carrie, if you can get that information. We're trying to have more meetings with the tribe to get better relationships. And that could be a topic that we ask them to address and see if we.
Well, that's what they're trying to do, telling us too, but today they say you can, but tomorrow, stay the hell off our land.
We hear you, but we're trying to make those
Yeah.
relationships better. They have been not good in the past, and I don't know if we can get there, but we have,
We're trying.
it's, that's about all I can say on that.
Is there any other questions on?
Yep.
Yes.
Question that you got revenue from gravel. That you get state or county land pulling gravel out of.
No, it's private land that there's a tax on every, is it ton or yard that goes? Then that's paid,
A ton.
Ton.
and that gets paid to the county. And the counties don't have to have that paid. I mean, we require that. Some counties don't require that. A few years ago, we tried to get that, because we're charging the maximum, because so much of our gravel goes out of county. We tried to get this legislation to give us a higher for that leaving the county. We were asking to be able to tax at a higher rate, and then higher yet for out of state, but they wouldn't allow. They didn't hear legislation for that.
But what's that number in this county, Becker County, what's your gravel in?
What do we make here? What do we pull in on that annually?
I don't know about annually, but our reports for fund balance we just did was about over 600,000.
Right, but we
But I don't-
distribute it. We only keep
Right.
$50,000.
Distributed a
He
lot of
gets
that.
paid to the townships for the gravel.
Yeah, that's split in
Portion
between
goes to the
townships and
township.
school district and,
Huge amount.
but the county has about a 500,000, and we did a county road. There's only certain things we can spend that money on. We did pave 145 down there with that money, a portion of that.
Yep.
About how many years? That's a few years ago now.
Yeah, that's been about 4.
And Orvis Olson he's passed away, but he was working for that for his whole lifetime to get that paved for those people down there.
Any other comments on either of the truth and taxation part or, yes?
I live off of 59 from 10 going north. There's been really bad accidents there lately. Are you guys discussing the safety of 59?
We aren't in particular, that's a MnDOT road. I know they've studied, and is it north on 59 or?
That's a state road, so that would be,
Not a county jurisdiction, so.
I mean, if we would be participant in any, questions they had, but they would have to be the lead on any of their roads, so.
Okay. Anything else? Hearing none, meeting adjourned. Thanks, everyone. Again, if you got on the list for Lee?
They'll come in and talk. I think that would be.